We spend far too much time worried about what makes us different than the next person or better than the next person, and not enough time thinking about why we should respect the next person. We all have a story, an overarching theme that runs through our lives and makes us who we are. The problem is, we think that since each of our stories is different, there's not a lot of perceived value and shared struggle. But we have far more in common than we can imagine, and what motivates one person can certainly help us as well. The Third Lap podcast is about understanding, respecting, and appreciating the struggle that it takes to overcome immeasurable odds in order to reach your destiny. Join me as I interview and bond with some of the most inspiring and incredible people, diving into their why to get a full understanding of their being. Without each other, we have nothing. So let's go on this adventure together and take on the future with open minds and open hearts. Welcome to the Third Lap podcast. What's going on, everybody? Thanks so much for joining. Really excited today. This is an opportunity for me to connect with a dude that I feel like I know really well, knows me really well. We've been rocking for a long time, man. When we got on today, I looked and I was like, oh, we getting old, bro.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Getting a chance to connect with the homie Charles Penn, CP, friend, creator, father, and just evolving human being, which I love, man, steadily evolving. So what's going on, CP? How's everything?
Everything is great, man. I cannot call it, just taking every day, 1 second at a time, 1 moment at a time, try not to get ahead of myself. And that's it, just life, man. We out here, we moving, what's good.
That's a fact, man. It's especially in the pandemic, it's so important to kind of just live in these moments as we see so many things happening around us and people that we love potentially contracting this. We just got to stay immersed in this moment, stay loving the people that we know, and just, again, why I'm excited to talk to you today is because it's been a minute. But I'm looking forward to catching up and being able to hear your story and use my platform to share your story. And so how do we know each other? It's pretty straightforward, actually.
Very much
I've been rocking with CP. So we lived together in college. We was rocking, man, for a long time. Like, this is my college roommate. Yeah, before college, we're post-college. We was spitting bars together. We was doing work, man.
I guess you could say like the childhood knowing of each other, growing up together, linking more after high school than anything. You know what I'm saying? We knew each other prior to that, but then after high school is when we actually, cemented a relationship. And just grew together. You know what I'm saying? Going through 20s when you're young and dumb. You know what I'm saying? Just learning, growing. And truthfully, that's, the usual story of ups and downs and constantly moving forward and becoming who we are. You know what I'm saying? And not allowing, I guess, that journey to interfere with the relationship that we have cemented and moving forward. You know what I'm saying? That's, the classic story. We was cool. We was mad at each other. We wasn't mad at each other. We lived together, you know what I'm saying? Like all of that, but ultimately leading us to where we are at this moment in time as human beings, and it's a good journey, man. I ain't mad at it at all. Like,
it's a fact. It's been a heck of a journey. Living together at Full Sail was a lot of fun, man.
So much fun. I think about that all the time.
A lot of Call of Duty and late nights when we should have been probably not up that late playing Call of Duty with more time.
Word up. You know what I'm saying? We over here playing multiple time zones. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's crazy. I think about our time down there a lot. I wish we could redo it, especially with a different understanding and mentality. I feel like, even though we were very adventurous and we did take the leap to go there and do all of that, I feel like if we had more confidence in ourselves when we were there, we would have left extremely successful in whatever endeavors we were trying to do, but at the same time, I am a firm believer in everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. Who knows what we would have become or who we would be now if we would have achieved a particular level of success at a younger age. Looking back, I'm not saying we were like silly, but I don't think we were the wisest individuals in the whole world. You know what I mean? So it's like, when you add success to lack of wisdom, that doesn't necessarily breed, the best outcome. Yeah, so, I look back and all of those times, all of the stuff we did, the music we did together, everything is dope. It's kind of funny because I think about how much I appreciate it more now than I did then. And at that time, when we did a lot of stuff, I had the ultimate confidence in us, but I could see the lack of confidence that I had also. You know what I'm saying? And when I listen to the stuff now, I'm like, yo, our stuff was actually fire, yo. Like what were we thinking? Why didn't we push forward and pursue? But like I said, that's a part of the journey. And truthfully, if we were supposed to be there, we'd be there, And I don't think that was necessarily our path. And I think that, by not going down those certain roads that we didn't travel, I think we're going to be better for it in terms of what we do and how we impact people. And, that's another thing too. I learned it's not about so much having this broad scope of touching people's lives that makes what you do important or significant, impacting one person could be exponential because you never know what that one person will go to do with their lives, and that I think that once I started to understand that kind of changed a lot of how I view the world and the things we've done and where we've been and all that. And at the same time, life is short too, as you referenced, the pandemic, the one thing I've taken away from this whole experience is to not to tune in, but to tune out. I feel like it's so easy to get caught up in a lot of the noise and stuff that's going on. And noise breeds confusion, and confusion breeds fear, and fear breeds irrationality. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like if a lot of us just went back into ourselves and took this as a moment to lock in, and by locking out, you know what I'm saying? I think we would be better off for it. But yeah, this crazy intro. You know what I mean?
I mean, this pandemic's sort of like what you said about like locking stuff out or blocking stuff. This is really how this came to fruition because I needed something that like I could focus on that was more productive because being on Twitter and watching the news and being immersed in a lot of the protest stuff and like the anti-Donald Trump movement, it was just a lot. And so it became important to find something to channel my energy into. I mean, your point about Full Sail is on the money. And I've told Allison numerous times, I was like, I'm kind of glad that we didn't make it because I'd have been dead, man. Ain't no question. Like, the mentality I had, like, I definitely would have been one of these rappers, struggling with somebody over trying to steal their jewels, trying to clap somebody, getting clapped. It just, I'm happy where I am in my life, and I'm grateful for the fact that God took me on the route that it did because it was important for me to have all of those steps and stops and journeys to get to where I am. And, man, we was making good, solid tracks. I go back and listen to some of the stuff when we first started, even at Darrell's crib when we went to go visit him. And, we was putting fire together, Pop, we was at Pop's crib going crazy. It was fun, man. I enjoyed it. We definitely had captured some real movement. And like you said, with Full Sail, again, I didn't capitalize on it. Like, I never went to Miami. Like the whole time I was in Florida, I was locked in because I had a dream when I first got the Full Sail that I failed out. And like, I was crying in the middle of the street in front of my mom's crib. And she came over to me with just this disappointed look at her face. And I never, like, maybe like a week later, I had gotten detained momentarily for possession, but I ain't have nothing on me, so they couldn't charge me. But I was with some people that did. And so after that, I never had no other incident again. Like there was never a point where I put myself in a position to even be in the wrong place at the wrong time. But some of that also. Man.
I remember that day, not to cut you off, but I literally was thinking about that moment because I remember you had told me like the officer was like, oh, you probably don't even know how to spell engineer. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, son.
I remember that whole situation, and it's interesting that you would say that because I constantly have conversations nowadays about how your decisions impact, what I'm saying, what happens to you, the stream of your fate, if you want to look at it like that. And I'm happy you said that because that's one thing that a lot of people fail to do. Personal responsibility, my dude.
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
100%.
And you were just like, you didn't put yourself in a position to where you would deal with that nonsense ever again. Nope. And if more people took that mentality, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much to be achieved, man. Not to cut you off, not to change what you were saying, but I had to say that
Nah,
because
that's a
I
fact.
literally was thinking about that shit in like the shower the other day. Like, yo, man, I remember that shit because just anticipating the conversation we was about to have. You know what I mean? And it just came up. My intuition brought that into my mind, and it was just like, I'm like, yeah, I remember that. Yo, I remember. You know what I'm saying? And that was like you said, a focal point or just a moment to where it's just like, yo, what am I doing right now? You know what I'm saying? Like, what am I doing here? Like, and I mean, it changed up so many different things. You also had to, think about, new options for securing what you was looking for. That ain't had nothing to do with the hood. So evolution, my dude.
Oh, man. Yo, it's no lie, yo. And the funny thing is, I was down there because old boy had told me it was a shorty he wanted to hook me up with. So I get down there, but I know it's the trap house because clearly I've been there before. Because I know the dudes that was there. And so we out in front, and then we talking, and all of a sudden the boys run down, and this now I'm swept up in this like investigation. I don't got nothing. The dude I came to see, and I told the cop that, which had me, I was rolling when I was finally done. But I told him, I'm like, yo, the dude I came to see, you just let walk away. I don't even know the rest of these dudes like that.
Word up.
And so, I mean, yeah, it was 100%, personal decision making. And, I took accountability for the fact that I put myself in a bad choice, like in a bad place through choices. And that was my life up until Full Sail, to be honest, right? It was like, making bad choices time after time. I got to thank you because you helped me tremendously with an old ex of mine who you put me on game what was really going on with that. And every time we get around Thanksgiving, that I will never, as long as I got a memory, I will never forget that. And I will always be indebted to you for that because you was the only person, maybe besides her, that was really trying to put me on game, like how game was. Because I was in Florida, like, you know what I mean? I didn't know what was going on. And so, I will forever appreciate you for that, man, because, you definitely, that was a solid one, man. You called me even though you had beer on you. I'll never forget it. It was like, I got beer in my dress, but I had to call you and just tell you real quick. And I'm like, oh, CP, you my dude for that, bro. I appreciate it. I love you for that, bro.
Yo, you gotta hold it down. Listen, we peoples. You know what I'm saying? 100%. And I remember that night too. And the situation, I'm just like, come on, man, that ain't right. You know what I mean?
Cold-blooded. But again, it's back to the whole had that not happened the way it did, Allison and I end up together, and I am where I'm supposed to be. Like, I'm in a relationship with a person that uplifts me and doesn't try to bring me down. And so I'm gonna always be grateful for that. But I swear every time we get near Thanksgiving, I always get that little memory of like that phone call, man. I'm like, all right,
I'm telling you, I was like, what? Yo, wait till I get a moment to dip off real quick. Make this phone call, goddamn it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember that. I was just like, this mother right here. Like, but once again, that's life, man. And from that time period, I would have to say that you and Hearn are really like the only two people who I still associate with, you know what I'm saying? And I haven't spoke to Hearn in a minute. I mean, a lot has to do with all of this, COVID craziness.
Parents, man, like, what happens, bro?
Exactly. So it's a lot. We both got a lot going on. And Hearn got a lot going on. You know what I'm saying?
A lot going on.
so for that reason, I haven't. But yeah, a majority of the people from that time period who I was around, I'm not around them anymore. You know what I mean? And we evaluated this. We had a conversation when we relinked, you know what I'm saying, after Sebastian was born, and I hit you up about, just like paying attention and seeing things for what it was, you know what I'm saying, at that time. Yeah. And when you're in the midst of something, you may perceive it as something that is not, and that's essentially what was happening. I was looking at acquaintances as friends, you know what I'm saying? And that wasn't the case because there was no reciprocity there. You know what I mean?
You seen what happened with me, man. I was looking at a lot of people like they was really my peoples, and when it was time to hold it down, scatter like roaches. So
yeah, and literally, and that's one thing that I always prided myself on, especially as getting older. If we friends, and I say we friends, You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna hold it down. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
As much as I can to the best of my ability for wherever my headspace is at that moment in time. I'm not saying I'm perfect, you know what I mean, at all. And I'm not saying I'm some sort of like, exception to the rule of life to where, we all go through whatever we go through, and that there's value in that. And I can't take that away from anybody, their journey, But at the core of it all, I always try to be as true as possible. And I find that that's the reason why I don't have a bigger circle as most people do.
Yeah.
It's hard to maintain relationships when there is no reciprocation of that. You know what I mean? It's not about talking all the time. It's not about hanging out. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? But the ability to rely on somebody when it's needed, or even when it's unwarranted or unasked for. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, you ain't know about that situation. If I would have never said nothing, you would never know to this day, my dude.
I done found out the hard way eventually, but you put me on game way before it blew up in my face. So yeah, 100%, man. And even think about Full Sail, like, we was struggling, man. Like, we was two broke college students, and we was making it happen. Like, we don't eat the same thing, but we'll go and split bread. When we have to go see people, we would figure it out. It was always reciprocated. And what you had said earlier too, around the fact that like we had sort of not necessarily fallen off, but like weren't in constant communication the same way. But whenever we do catch up, it's like no time elapsed, you know what I mean? And so like that's always like I had Mitch on for an earlier episode too. And that's same sort of situation, right? Like, whenever we catch up, it's like, oh, all right, boom, like we stepping right, like we ain't never left time. And so, it's always awesome to connect with the homies, man, and just reminisce sometimes, because like I done know y'all dudes more than half my life, and so it's always cool.
It's been
like,
a long time.
It's been a long time. Like, yo, I've really known her in like 22 years, 23 years. Like, it's crazy. I feel like I'm like, how's that math work? I'm only 28. You know what I mean? But I'm not 28.
No, facts. You know what I'm saying? Yo, literally, I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean, man.
You're listening to the Third Lap Podcast with Mal Davis.
Yeah. It's the same with me and Mitch too. You know what I mean? Whenever I link with him, it's always the same. It's the same with me and the twins. I find that certain people who I held in high regard in terms of friendships, majority of them aren't the people that I talk to randomly, or the people who reach out to me. And I'm not saying this like boo-hoo, woe is me. No, life changes, we grow. But I've seen it, you know what I'm saying? And it always comes down to, I guess, the level of selfishness that a person has. We're all going to be selfish, because self-interest is what makes the world go around. Like, we try to, put like, oh, you got to be super selfless. I can't help you if I don't help myself. If I don't make sure I got food in my stomach, if I don't make sure I'm healthy and educated, then in no way, shape, or form am I going to be an uplifting factor to your life. You know what I'm saying? If I'm another anchor or another weight holding you down, then we can't do it. How we both lifting each other up. You know what I'm saying? So you have to monitor to the self. The self is something that has to be taken care of to a degree. There's always an extent of selfishness. I understand that. You know what I mean? But, I guess, what level of selfishness do you have? That's what I've noticed, you know what I'm saying, in terms of the people who I'm not around, and it always comes down to, well, not always, but a lot of people, it comes down to you being more invested in what you can get or do instead of what we can get and do. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're doing something, any sort of business venture or something like that. It's like, yo, man, like I just linked up like a business partner of mine now, like the only business partner I have at this moment in time. Me and him, we got together through a mutual friend. And the mutual friend, I don't know, like, the person never really put forth the effort to advance what we were all trying to do together. You know what I'm saying? And then a situation arose to where we saw this person putting forth a lot of effort, but it was for a mission that had nothing to do with our mission. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it was just like, and then seeing that, I was just like, wow, like, when it comes to us and what we're trying to do, you know what I mean? You're kind of like, lackadaisical. You just, whatever, going with the flow. But then you look at this other person's thing or something that you think will help advance you quickly, and you're like on it, like, yo, let's go. It kind of turned me off, you know what I'm saying? And our relationship kind of fell apart. And I wound up moving forward with the person who's my business partner now, and kind of falling back from the other person simply because it's like, dude, like, I thought we were in this together. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like when you feel like working, we work. When you're not feeling some sort of way, we move forward. But as long as there is an issue with you, that's we got to slow down and stop. Even though we all going through something. You know what I'm saying? Like, but not to digress from what we were talking about, but it's just like, I found that seems to be the part to where I've lost a lot of my friendships, is to where, your level of selfishness starts to totally encompass our relationship. You know what I mean? And it's just like, yo, it's, two-way street, my dude. That is what a relationship is. It's two people coming together, moving forward mutually, not one person, you know what I'm saying? And one person's interest being dominated, especially if we come together on some business. It's like, I don't know, man. That I've been turned off.
A lot of times, man, that ain't it. Like, a lot of times, people, it's like when you're having a conversation with somebody and somebody's just listening to respond, right? Like, they're not listening to hear what you got to say and then letting it internalizing that process, thinking about what it is that you're saying, giving you a thoughtful response in return. It's like, they heard this, I'm addressing that. And so, relationships a lot of times are the same way. It's like, we want to get especially because so many of us have been in broken relationships, whether that's a love relationship, whether that's friends, whether that's with our parents. Like, not many of us have seen good relationships, right? And like, that was a conversation that my wife and I had, was I've never really been around like my aunt and uncle, Aunt Alice, Uncle Wayne, who have been married forever. Like, I've seen these sorts of relationships, but like, I wasn't raised in a household, unlike my wife, who had both her parents there. Like, I wasn't raised with both my parents. So I never saw what a fully functioning marriage was every single day. And so, we are basically what we've learned. And if all you've learned is one-way streets, that, okay, well, people always use me, so I'm gonna use them first. And then you get that use out of them first. And then, like you said, about, like, I think about Skybox, right? Like, we had a really great idea, but we had 4 people kind of going in very different directions. The website that I owned and operated with one of our former like friends. Well, you ain't really know him, but I went to middle school with him. And the same thing is, like, we were running the website. It was going. All of a sudden, this dude whose cousin worked at ESPN, he wanted to start something similar. And so the dude I'm working with jumped ship, and he's now working with this dude. And Allison was the one, just like with you and the ex. Allison hit me one day, was like, yo, what's going on with so-and-so? I see him promoting something else now. And I had no idea this was happening. And so I'm like, oh, so you jumping ship to something, by the way, that never was created. They never did anything with it. We had a full functioning website for a year before this man jumped ship. And so, I've seen it in all facets, and I can agree with you 100%. Like, that's sort of my litmus test, is like, if you're not giving back as much as you get, I can't rock with you. I'm gonna cut it off. I'm gonna cut it short, because there's no point in me investing that much into you for you to turn around and play me behind it. And so, but listen, we'll end up on this.
I was about to say.
But so we talked a little bit about it. But where you from, CP? Rep your hood, man.
All right, so I'm from Jersey born, Essex County, born and raised. I've lived in Orange, East Orange, South Orange, Maplewood. I currently reside in Union right now. I've also lived in Somerville with my dad when I was down at Rutgers. I say I'm from Maplewood because that's where I cemented my, lifelong friendships. So I rep Maplewood, man. Suburbs all day. You know what I'm saying? I ain't mad at it. But Jersey, Essex County, born and raised. I've been around the world, been around the country, but yeah, Jersey all day.
Yeah, shout outs to Essex County, Piff County, you know what I mean? That's where we all got started at. That's where we got started at.
Even though I'm really liking Union County right now.
Oh, I believe
really
it,
liking it. But Essex County, what's good, man?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so CP, you started talking a little bit about your business partner and some of the things that you've learned already, but this is really like the meat of the podcast, where you get a chance to really tell your story, both professionally and personally. So we can really start wherever you want to start. Like, I would say, start at the point that you feel, has been most influential to where you are right now, and then we'll kind of work our way through it.
All right, true. So I'll start like this because I feel like this would be very beneficial to somebody who may have been in the exact same position I've been in or where I started, where everybody, I always say, you can't walk my path, but you can go in the same direction as me. You know what I'm saying? Only I can do. I'm the only person who has, my foot size, my stride, my weight, all of that, and that creates my journey. But like I said, we can go in the same direction. So this is for somebody who may be traveling in the direction that my life has been moving in so far. But I'll start from very young. I've always been the person who, from a young age, where everybody was like, "Oh man, you're gonna be doing like big things when you get older." You know what I'm saying? Like, "Oh, I see a promising future for you." I was in gifted and talented program. I graduated valedictorian in my 8th grade class. I was in all honors classes. You know what I'm saying? In high school, one of the few brown faces, not due to racism, but just due to a myriad of factors as to why I was one of the few brown male faces in there. A lot of brown females, few brown males. I went to Rutgers for a little bit. I did Full Sail. I'll just say this: my path in life was always appeasing or pleasing somebody else's idea of who I should be. You know what I mean? That's why I did everything. I was a perfect student, very respectful, very responsible. Not to say that I did these things because somebody, that's what I thought people wanted. Of course, that was a part of who I am. But everything up until when I went to Full Sail, I'll use that as the beginning of the next stage of the journey. Everything up until Full Sail was basically me living my life in accordance to what I thought people wanted to see or what I thought was the best version of who I should be. And it wasn't necessarily fulfilling to me as an individual. And it also kind of limited, a lot of, I guess, experiences that I could have had at a younger age to enrich my life in general. You know what I mean? Ultimately, what happened was living that particular lifestyle and having that ideology of needing to please others. I mean, it was deep, like to the point to where like I wouldn't. I had like a social, not phobia, but I guess weight that I carried around about being brown. And I was just like, damn, I assumed that all white people assumed a particular thing about brown people, especially brown men. So whenever I was around a white person, I conducted myself in a particular way. I spoke a certain way so that I wouldn't be a stereotype. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of neurotic if you think about it. It's like, damn, y'all can't even live my life. Like I'm so focused on how I think this person's viewing me. They haven't showed me that they're viewing me that way, but I'm so focused on how I think they're viewing me that I'm altering the way I speak, mannerisms, all of that, just so that they won't lump me into a category that they might not have even thought about doing in the first place, And that kind of sums up like who I was at a younger age. So going into college, going into Rutgers, for my first 3 years, it was a very depressing time of my life. Like, I looked around, most people around me were happy to be there. One of the biggest disappointments for me was like when I was in high school, everybody's immature. You're supposed to be. It's a very immature time of your life. But I was looking for a level of maturity and logic in the way people looked at the world around them that I wasn't receiving in high school. And I was under the false assumption that once you go to college, you know what I'm saying? You're going to be around all of these mature, responsible individuals. How they view the world, not just go with the flow. Like let's question some things. Let's expand our mind. Let's think about concepts that aren't conventional or regular. You know what I mean? I was looking for that, and I did not receive it at all. And I started to think that there was something wrong with me. I'm like, yo, why am I the only person who feels like this? Why am I the only person who thinks like this? I'm in class, I'm just going through the motions, I started abusing drugs at this point in time. And I'm not talking about smoking weed. I mean, like I took Benadryl all the time, because I have allergies, but I was taking Benadryl and like smoking weed and drinking wine all in one night just to numb myself. You know what I'm saying? I was numbing myself as much as possible during this time period. Like this is the medication time period of my life where like I wasn't enjoying anything I was doing. I was just doing it. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't want to feel and I didn't want to think. And you know, now my mind is always racing, always. And I was trying to just silence that because it wasn't making sense to me at that point in time. Because like I said, I've never felt as alone as I have during that time period. And those around me may not have even known, you know what I mean? Because I didn't lean on anyone for help, friends nor family, because I didn't want to be a burden, you know what I'm saying? And so ultimately 3 years go by and the depression just keeps sinking in deeper and deeper and deeper, you know what I mean? And I get to the point to where I actually contemplated committing suicide. And a lot of people don't know that, you know what I'm saying? And I remember the day, and it was at my dad's house, you know what I'm saying? Where you and John, you know, used to come chill, you know what I mean? Like we used to kick it. Like I was in the room and I was just like, yo, man, you know, I was thinking to myself, like, I don't want to be here no more. You know what I'm saying? I was tired. It was a lot of weight that I had placed on my shoulders, you know, a lot of things that I bore by myself that I didn't necessarily need to, because there were those around me who would have alleviated that weight. But like I said, I didn't want to burden them, but that's how I felt at that time. And I remember sitting there like, yo, man, I don't want to be here no more, man. And I was just like, you know, and I actually contemplated the ways in which I would commit suicide. Like, this is actually insane to think about. And not insane, like, I don't want to make it seem like if you have that thought, you're insane. I don't mean like that. I mean, just me thinking of me sitting down in a room, contemplating how I wanted to end my life is kind of like, whoa, that's kind of wild. But the one saving grace out of all of that was I thought about how that would affect the people around me. And I'm not a selfish individual. I do care about those who care about me. And I couldn't do it for that reason, because I knew it would destroy my family. And I felt like that, even though I did not want to be here anymore, and I felt completely isolated and alone, I did not want to add to the pain of the rest of the years of my family, for however long they would be alive. And I knew that it would cut them deep, because I didn't talk to nobody. So nobody knew I was depressed. If you saw me at family functions, you would have thought everything was cool, because I knew how to put the mask on. You know what I'm saying? When I was out in public, I could have got an Academy Award. You know, I was an excellent actor. Like, you literally would never have known that something was wrong with me. So I knew that it would cut them that much deeper, because it would have come completely out of left field. You know what I'm saying? And that would have just been like, and so that was my breaking and beginning point all in one night. And at that moment in time, I was like, okay, so I don't want to be here. I'm not happy with where my life is right now. And not in terms of success or anything like that, but just in terms of like my headspace, you know what I mean? And that was the night I decided to go to Full Sail, as crazy as that is. And so I did everything, and I got all my stuff together, and yeah, and then I decided, you know, that was going to be my next move. It was the first time in life that I was doing something that I strictly wanted to do. You know what I mean? It wasn't because somebody else wanted me to do it. It wasn't to make myself look good for somebody else. It wasn't so that somebody could brag about me, like, oh, you know, my son is doing this. No, I did it specifically and wholly for myself. And that was the beginning of the journey that I'm on now. So going from that point forward, to wrap up the first half, you know, if anybody finds themselves in a position to where they feel like they're not living for themselves, talk to somebody about it. I definitely should have gotten some sort of counseling, or I should have talked to friends, family. You know, I should have talked to my parents. I was living with my dad, and my dad didn't know. You know what I mean? How devastating would that have been if he would have woke up the next day and found his son dead in the bedroom, right next, adjacent to his, and he had no idea that his son was dealing with any sort of, you know, depression or mental instability at that moment in time. You know. So this is one thing I like to express this story, to share this specifically because, you know, mental depression is a big thing in our culture. It's something that is not, you know, talked about, especially for men, you know what I mean? Especially with brown men, and not to be, you know, stereotypical, but our culture is you know, a lot of things are seen as taboo, you know what I mean? And I feel like don't wait until you reach the moment that I reached in order to change, because it might not be the same outcome as it was for me. You know what I mean? But yeah, so that ushered in the new me. And the first thing I did after that was to decide to go to school there. I forgot when I found out that you were going. I'm not sure when we had that discussion. That's the one thing I can't remember. I can't remember like when it was like, oh damn, you want to go to war? Oh, that's great. All right, let's do it. I forget. Do you remember when we had that conversation about like going down there together and being roommate? I can't remember any of that.
I mean, I remember sort
I
of my
remember going
story.
down.
Yeah,
I
I remember
remember like the plane down. We stayed at the hotel. We looked at spots. I remember all of that. I
yeah.
just don't remember before that, leading into us both coming together to be like, oh, yo, full set, oh, word, let's do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's one
Yeah.
thing I'm cloudy on.
I mean, neither here nor there. Like we ended up, yeah. I mean, we ended up going, which was the important part because we both realized that like it was a necessity for where we wanted to go, like in our career as far as making music. I remember going because like I had been looking at Full Sail for like a year, but the financial part was the part I couldn't figure out. So I remember we had been talking about it when I was coming up to Rutgers, because I remember I was going up there with Sosa, and we talked a couple times about it. But it was cool because we did make that choice. We went and visited. We did like the behind the scenes tour. I think that like that solidified it for us. You know, that we was down there. That's when we split the Piff County joint.
Yeah, I
At
know.
Darrell
Yeah,
at Darrell's crib down there in
yeah,
Daytona
I remember
Beach.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So but yeah, man, we like that decision was important. And I remember part of that portion of Charles, like the late Rutgers days. That's when we first started kicking it like that, was
Word
when I
up.
was coming up to Rutgers. And so, yeah, I mean, I can definitely see now in hindsight where you were struggling. Cause I remember, man, like you taking Benadryl and then chiefing, and I'm like, yo, how does that not put you like all the way down? Like Benadryl by itself would take you out the mix, but then
Word
add
up.
on the bud, and it's like, oh wow, like you out of here.
You're listening to the Third Lap Podcast with Mal Davis.
You know, the Third Lap Podcast, throughout pretty much every episode, that same story has been told no matter who it is. You know, first, I'm very transparent. Like I've been diagnosed with clinical depression since I was like 14 years old. So been on and off medication my whole life pretty much. And then in talk therapy, the vast majority of it. But everyone that's come on has shared a very similar story. And usually that is our reclamation point, right? Like that lowest point is also the point where you like, okay, but I can only go up from here. And so, you know, you mentioned that leaving Rutgers and going to Full Sail was that moment where you had your like awakening and you became and started that evolution of becoming a different iteration of Charles. So talk us through that movement or like that time in your life.
So, you know, deciding to go was, like I said, was great. I forget, you know, how me and you came together, but I remember that, you know, being a even more motivating factor. Like, damn, it's not just me. All right, that's what's up. You know what I'm saying? Let's go. But going there, that was the beginning of me having confidence in myself. And it's crazy because, you know, like I said earlier, you know, we still didn't have the extreme level to where we could have, you know, achieved levels of fame and success in music. But it started the road of like, okay, I want to do something. I don't know how it's gonna get done, but I'm gonna do it. You know what I mean? And that was like such a great lesson. I mean, we moved in, we had a dope apartment. I slept on a freaking air mattress for 6 like months. Messed my back up. You know what I'm saying? Like I was out here eating straight, like all kinds of cheap meals. You know what I mean? It was not a glorious existence by any means, nor was it, you know, slumming it by any means either. You know, but that gave me the motivation to move forward, and then linking up with the people who were down there. It was great to be around people who kind of had the same mentality you had in terms of trying to achieve success through a alternative road, you know what I'm saying? Alternative means. It was excellent being on the campus and being immersed in that culture with the people down there, you know what I mean? It was a lot more diverse than I expected it to be. And not in terms of like white, black, but just in terms of all different kinds of people, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to think what else. It was a lot of life lessons down there. a lot of life lessons. Like I tell people a lot about like, you know, me and you, I mean, well, it's crazy because we were young, or like 22, 23 or something like that, you know what I'm saying? And we were very responsible in how we interacted with the environment. Because there was a lot of people down there who got. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, people was getting robbed all the time, yo.
All the time.
All the
All
time.
the time.
Son. It was
Yo,
crazy.
all the time. I tell everybody about the 3:00 in the morning call I got from this dude from he was from New Orleans. And he was just like, yo, you know, I saw the phone ring and I knew him in terms of like we were in class together. And I think we had done like a group project or something together. And that's why we had each other's numbers. You know what I'm saying? We may have chilled maybe like once, twice, maybe, because you know how it was down there. You just navigated until you found the people that you gel with the most, and then you locked in. But yeah, so you know, it was like 3:00 in the morning. This dude calls me up, and I'm like, yo, what? And of course, I was up playing video games or something crazy. You know what I'm saying? Young, you know, no kids, so I had to wake up. You know what I mean? And I pick up the phone, and something told me like, yo, why is this dude calling me like 3 something in the morning? I'm like, hey, let me see what's up. So I pick the phone up. And he's like, yo, could you come pick me up from the hospital? I'm like, the hospital? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, all right, I got you. You know, I jumped in the car and the hospital wasn't far. I don't know if you remember like where it was from us. If you have a, you know, a memory of, you know, of Orlando. But I went down to the hospital. I picked him up because it really wasn't far from where we were. And he told me like he was just hanging out with some people at a pool hall in the complex that he lived in. But it was on University, closer to UCF, you know what I'm saying? And he was just like, he was there with some locals, and then all he remembers was walking out. And what happened was, as he was leaving out, and you know, they were drinking, so he was a little inebriated. When he walked out, somebody snuck him from behind and punched him in the back of the head. And he actually fell on the ground, broke his jaw. You know what I'm saying? And then they stole his wallet. And he didn't realize that they stole his wallet until we went to the gas station. He was like, yo, man, I'm gonna get you gas. I'm like, yo, man, don't worry about it. He was like, nah, yo. He was like, you're the only person who picked up. I want to do something. You know what I'm saying? So we go to the gas station. That's when he realized they robbed him. So it was just like, it was several situations like that, you know, that made me, us mature. You know what I'm saying? In the way in which we handled ourselves. So that was a good thing. Being in a foreign land and knowing how to navigate so that you don't get got. You know what I'm saying? Because people was getting got left and right.
It helped because I had lived in Houston for a little bit. And so it was the same thing. Like I had learned lessons in Houston that I applied to Orlando. Because when I had gone to Houston, I was straight from Jersey. And so I remember one day we was chilling out in an apartment complex, and I had said something. We was just talking. And one of the young women that lived there, she was like, yo, she was like, you think you better than us, don't you? I'm like, what? She was like, I could just tell. She was like, you should be careful with that. And I ain't never like it was on like that. I played it different because I'm like, I'm in a foreign territory, man. You know, like this not where I'm from. Like this, my homies is not out here like that. Like I ended up being flanked around some real, you know, real live dudes in Houston. But in the end of the day, like I was still a foreigner, and 100% like when I got to Orlando, I already knew how to operate because I had already gone through that situation. And Florida ain't no joke. Like, you know, the same way Texas goons ain't no joke. Like Florida goons ain't no joke. Like you'll get got smooth in Orlando, dude. And so, you know, it was real though, but it also helped because like we was living together, so it was also that familiarity. Like I didn't have to go and find. Like I ended up making a bunch of friends, thankfully, but like I knew you, you knew me, and we had already been rocking before we got there. So it was dope to like live together because we know if all else hit the fan, like we got each other's back no matter what.
Exactly.
And it ain't never go down like that, but still, you know, I remember a similar situation like this dude. We was in school 2 weeks. It was the like the midterm, 2-week midterm, and the dude never showed up. Cool white dude, yo, had a nice whip and everything. And so word started to spread after the midterm that he had gone home, and everybody like, yo, he just bounced. Like, what happened? So I knew some people that lived in his apartment complex, and they said that the night before, like 2 nights before, he was walking through his complex, like going home, and a truck pulled up on him, put the straps out on him, was like, yo, where you at? Took him to his crib. They robbed him, stripped him naked, took his car, like took everything from this man.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm hearing all these stories and I'm like, yeah, you can't, if you moving funny out here, like you might not even make it home. Like you
might not.
forget about like you robbed and you got to go home in shame. Like, yo, you might not make it back to where you from. And so, you know, that's when I was like, I'm locked into this college thing. Like, I'm not even going to play around. I spent mad money on this education. So it's really no point in me playing games with people and ultimately like taking my freedom or taking my life away from me. Nah, man, I made it mad far to get to that point. And so,
exactly.
You know, it was a lot of lessons. All of that to say, it was a lot of lessons learned that Full Sail for sure, bro.
Yo, on everything that's good, and this is the most paranoid I've ever been in my whole entire life, yo. Every time I walked out of the apartment, especially at night, my head was on a swivel, my dude. And I'm not even lying. Like, no exaggeration, every single time. I don't think it was one time that I pulled up to our apartment. And our walk, you know, for the people listening, our walk from where we parked our cars to our front door was not far at all. It was like
2 feet.
I was about to say, literally. The first, like, literally, the way the parking lot was, like, it was an abundance of spots. Yeah. And maybe you had to park, maybe, like, on the spots that were perpendicular, you know what I'm saying, to, like, the front of your door. Maybe, you know what I'm saying? Not the ones that was, like, sort of parallel a little bit. But yeah, every time I got out the car, I made sure nobody was watching. You know what I'm saying? I was always looking at the cars, make sure nobody's sitting inside the car looking. Like, I was super, super on point with that, yo. Because I was saying the same thing. I was like, listen, man, I'm from Jersey. I'm from Essex County. I ain't got robbed there. I'm not trying to move down to Orlando.
You heard? We made it out of Essex County, man. We wasn't getting stuck out there. I'm not getting stuck in Orlando, dog.
Yo, word up, yo. I was like, yo, it's not going down. And so literally I moved accordingly, you know what I'm saying? But that wisdom, that knowledge, that understanding that we had definitely carried us a long way, because you were right. I mean, I saw people who be chilling in their apartment, they door open, they blinds up, showing everything. I'm like, yo, this is like, nah. We rarely have people over.
I was gonna say, we ain't even bring people to the crib like that. Like, I brought maybe like 3 people to the crib, if that, right? Especially because you used to have Joe come through, and so I ain't never really want people knowing. I've always been the type, I don't never want people knowing where I rest my head, man. Like, that's never been where I'm trying, like the position I'm trying to be in. If you're not like my close circle, you'll never know where I live, bro. Because in the end of the day, people gonna use that information against you. I seen it firsthand. I'm not here for that. And so, you know, I'll be like, y'all come to your crib. I come to your house. Don't worry about it, man. It wasn't coming to the house. Yeah.
People like, you sure? I'm like, it's cool. Don't worry about it. I'm good. Yeah. I'll drive over. 100%. I don't care.
And we both had cars, thankfully. So like, it worked out that way that we could be mobile. But yeah, man, it was good times though. What you said about just being around people that were motivated to do the same thing. That's really what, even though I didn't take the entertainment industry by storm the way I had envisioned before I got there, what I learned about, and what you said, you know, having belief in myself, and Full Sail really, because of, like, if people who don't know Full Sail, so Full Sail University is a for-profit university in Winter Park, Florida. It's focused mostly on like the multimedia arts. And so you are in school all year, like straight. You have 8-hour classes, sometimes 12, depending on like what classes you're taking, 6 days a week. And so when I tell people that, you know, we was in school Saturday, 8 hours a day, if not 12, right? And then you would get out on a Saturday, and a Saturday and Sunday are the only days you had to yourself. And so you could have it like this, right? So like you could have a class from like 8 to 12, lab from 12 to 4, and then a class the next day at 9 o'clock in the morning. And so in them hours, like, we still playing Call of Duty, we still going to the studio and recording. We, you know, you was making the beats, and so you was locked in on that. And so it was just a great time in life, to just learn about yourself and learn about what matters, and see like work ethic. That's really what Full Sail drove home for me, was like an intense work ethic that still really serves me well today. I paid a lot of money for work ethic.
A lot. Still paying.
If things don't change, I'll be paying for the rest of my life.
Seriously.
What it instilled in me, as far as like work ethic, and just being, like you were saying before, you know, not making excuses for why you can't do something, just do it. And Full Sail was one of them situations where like mad people failed out, mad people got robbed
Yes.
and had to leave home, mad people ran out of loan money and couldn't finish.
Became drug addicts.
Yo, mad people became drug addicts. Mad, folks got lost in just the poppiness of being away from home for the first time. And I really felt for like, I tried to bring as many of the youngins under my wing as I could. Like my young boys, I was like 18, 19, and I still rock with them to this day. Cause like, I really was looking out for them because they was young, like they was fresh out the house. And I'm like, nah, man, come, like, even though I'm only 22, 23, but like, I had been running around. And so like, I had been trying to teach them. And so it was just a great time, man. But this ain't about me. This is about you.
You're listening to the Third Lap Podcast with Mal Davis.
Yeah. We got to the point where you at Full Sail, you learning lessons. And so like, ultimately, what did Full Sail create for you that's still lasting to this day? What have you taken away from it? Or what are you still doing that like began at Full Sail?
All right. So the one thing that began at Full Sail that's still lasting to this day is creativity or allowing myself to be creative. You know what I mean? Full Sail basically teaches you like the technical aspects of production or audio engineering or videography, things like that. But knowing that made me or learning that helped me to tap into my personal expression. And that is one thing that I still use to this day. You know what I mean? I've done since then videography, production, rap and all of that stuff. But at the core of that is just my individual creativity. You know what I mean? And prior to that, I was a little more apprehensive about it because I didn't know a lot of the technical sides. And one thing that it showed me also is technical doesn't mean anything. You learn all of this stuff, you start linking up with people who never went to school for it, who just know it by doing it trial and error, or they do it a particular way that's counter to what you were taught, but it still achieves the same goals and the same ends. You know what I mean? So I guess that's one thing that those two things, tapping into my creativity and, being able to express it, but also seeing that, there is no one way to do anything. And I guess, like you said, too, it was a lot of money, what I'm saying, to learn to stand on your own. But it was also a lot of money spent for me to learn that, this doesn't need to happen again. You don't need to go through this route in order to achieve what you're trying to do. You know what I mean? Like, you'd be surprised. You don't have to have the degree or hours of knowledge about something to get into it and to do it and do it properly and grow within it. You know what I mean? And I guess that's one thing that's truthfully the main thing. And that's what's enabled me to do other things since then, even though I may not have necessarily been doing it for a long time or took a college course on it. You know what I'm saying? That was the springboard for Full Sail. Full Sail, I went to Full Sail because I needed to emotionally, mentally. It created that foundation of me trusting who I was as an individual, as a creative, especially being around other creatives and expressing myself through rap and the beats and having people genuinely appreciate what I'm creating and my approach at creating it and the way I did it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was dope in and of itself. And that foundation led me to understand, like, all right, now that you've seen this, now you can go and apply this, basically what you learned here, to everything else. You know what I'm saying? And that ultimately led me to everything from there. I mean, from there, I took a straight left turn. I left there, and the first thing I did after Full Sail was start working in the school district as a para with special needs students. You know what I'm saying? And I did that for like 6-7 years in a row. You know what I mean? But I would have never thought that I would have. I wouldn't have had the confidence that I had in doing it if I wouldn't have went to Full Sail. Because, like I said, I saw like, all right, yeah, I don't have an educational background, but that doesn't mean that I can't be here and help out. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't mean that I can't bring value to this situation that I'm in. And I did, you know what I mean? And for those 7 years, that was something that I really didn't even want to leave or stop doing. There was several reasons that led to the end of it, but I enjoyed it thoroughly, you know what I mean? And like I said, it was something that I just stumbled upon, but I took the chance specifically because I had been in a situation where I saw people doing things that they just stumbled upon, you know what I mean? Something they took a chance on. And it worked, and it was going forward. And I was just like, oh, okay, let me do this too. If somebody else could do it, I could do it. You know what I mean? And that led me to the second renaissance. You know what I'm saying? The initial one was Full Sail. Now the second renaissance after Full Sail, and this is when I started to do a lot of reading. This is when I started to become, I guess, spiritual in a way without even realizing I was becoming spiritual. This is when I expanded my mind beyond what I had done before. You know what I mean? So Full Sail was that springboard that brought me into the educational world. And one thing that taught me was like, yo, it taught me how to express myself in a way confidently. It taught me how to relay information succinctly. You know what I mean? Because, if you've never been in front of people and never had to teach people, the person who knows what they're talking about can explain it to you in 2 sentences. The person who doesn't know what they're talking about needs a paragraph or an hour. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, nah, like you either know what you're saying or you don't. And once you understand a concept and understand it correctly, now you can relay that to somebody else. And that was one gift that I had, and it helped out a lot, working with the students that I work with. And I was doing like amazing things in there, man. My first year working there, I worked with a special needs kindergartner. He was Asperger's on the spectrum. And if people don't know what Asperger's is, it's on a low end spectrum of autism. And so I started working with this guy. And by the end of the year, everything happened. Chris Christie came into office. There was an issue with him and the school, districts or, what are they, school boards or whatever it is. What do they call it? The Teachers Association. And so, to get back at them, funding got cut. And so the position got cut, like the funding for it. And the parents of the student that I work with were millionaires, and they offered to pay my salary to work with their child for the next several years, They told the school district, like, yo, we'll pay his salary. Like, we just want him to work with our child. Like, he's done like amazing things. I never worked with kids before. Never. I never worked with special needs kids before. But like I said, that confidence, that ability to be like, yo, man, I could do this. I got this. You know what I'm saying? This is something I could do. I stepped in there, like just straight rookie the first day. After about 2 weeks, I saw what it was about. After about 2 months, I got into the groove, you know what I mean? And it was great. And those 7 years are literally the turning point in which brought me to where I am today and made me the confident person that I am right now. You know what I mean? And then moving from, I started off in the elementary school. I worked with kindergartners, first grade, second grade. Did I make it to third grade? Might have gone to third grade too. I can't remember. But then the offer came up for the high school. And if you're not familiar with the educational world, a lot of people are nervous about working with high school students, because they're like, yo, these people the same size as me. It's gonna be crazy. They're not gonna respect me. Like, I can get a kindergartner to listen to me, but some 14, 15-year-old kid who's like 6'2", you know what I'm saying? They ain't gonna respect what? I love the high school kids, I loved working with older kids, And the craziest part about it is it paralleled working with the younger kids so much that I got to see the mentality of a teenager as opposed to the mentality of like a 5 or 6 year old. And it's very similar. And I'm not talking about in an immature nature, but I'm talking about the pureness of it. You know what I mean? The youthfulness of it, the childness, like they're both children. You know what I mean? And that put into perspective things too, like, damn, like we put a lot on these kids, but they're still kids. You know what I'm saying? And it started to help me understand and gain a better perspective on the way I viewed the world, the way I view people. I stopped being so critical on people, on myself. You know what I mean? I started to pay attention and understand people's perspective more, because that's something that you really need to do in order to move appropriately in this world. Like, everyone always wants to master how they view things. I like to master or understand how other people view things, because then I can link up with my mentality with theirs easier. You know what I'm saying? Because I can find that common ground. And that's the one thing that helped me work with every student that I work with. And the teachers loved it, The teachers used to fight over me to be in their room, Like, it was crazy. Like, when it was like a bidding war, like, nah, they used to be like, you had him last year? I need him in my classroom this year. Like, no BS, Like, it literally was like arguments over which room I was going to be in, specifically on how I connected with the students. I could get the quote unquote worst student in the school to do whatever I wanted them to do, because it was a level of respect, and the way I approached them, they understood, like, yo, man, this person, one, is looking at me through a level of understanding and non-judgment. And two, I could tell that they're really here for me and they really want me to grow and advance. You know what I'm saying? And that made a difference, you know. And then I prided myself on being able to have real conversations with these students. Since I wasn't the teacher, I could be on the sidelines like, yo, come here for a second, man. Let me talk to you. You know, and I could break things down in a way that they understood and was more impactful. You know, I'll never forget, this was like a couple years before I was done working there. I was talking to this one senior, and I was just like, yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? You're not going to remember us. You know what I'm saying? I was like, you're not going to remember me. You know what I mean? I was like, but that's life. You know, you're supposed to grow and move on, and you may not remember us or whatever. He was like, nah, Mr. Penn. He was like, I'll remember you specifically because you taught me things about life. You know what I'm saying? That no other teacher had taught me. And he was like, the things you told me, you know, it was super impactful. Of course, I'm paraphrasing as an adult. I'm not saying how, you know, a teenager would say it, but he's, you know, essentially just said like what I had taught him or what I had shown him was way more impactful than a lot of the things that he had seen while he was there. And that was something that he was going to take away for the rest of his life. You know what I'm saying? Or the rest of the foreseeable life. Because of course, as you grow and mature, you never know what's going to happen. But that right there, that was one of my crowning achievements of you know, working with students and working in the school district, you know, was just being able to literally link up with these kids in a way. I was like a superstar, yo. Like my wife used to be bugging because we'd be walking around Maple in the South Orange. Mr. Penn, oh, Mr. Penn, oh, hey, Mr. Penn. I'm like, yo, I had to stay in the house. Yo. I'm like, I can't be out here. Kids can't catch me slipping. You know what I'm saying? I had to keep it tight for mad years, yo, you know, but it was cool though. You know what I'm saying? It helped me to mature even more. You know what I mean? I love the teachers that I work with. It was such a great staff. You know, the administration loved me. It was just phenomenal. But as with most things in life, you got to keep moving. You know what I'm saying? And so that second renaissance birthed, you know, my I guess the third level of my adulthood. You know what I'm saying? Where I'm at now. From there, my wife and I had a great idea that didn't pan out, but we wanted to get into the health and wellness field. And so we didn't have kids at the time. So I was like, you know what? Bump it. Let's be out. We had just gone to California about a year or two before we quit our jobs. And we went out there to see friends of ours. This is when Brandon got married. You know what I'm saying? And so we went out to Cali. We went from San Diego all the way up to Sacramento. We got to see like a lot of California. You know what I'm saying? It opened our eyes to a lot of things that we wanted, the type of lifestyle we wanted to live. You know what I mean? And we decided to try to pursue that. And so we both quit our jobs about a year or two later, and we moved to Puerto Rico. We were in Puerto Rico for a couple months, and we wanted to stay down there. We wanted to start like a health and wellness business, like online. You know what I mean? We made a lot of rookie mistakes that people, of course, make, you know, with most business ventures. But it was dope because, once again, it was another leap of faith. You know what I'm saying? And I'm a strong believer of take as many leaps as you need to. We only got one life to live. No one is judged off of truthfully, you shouldn't be judged for anything you do because it's not up to me to judge you. It's not up to anybody to judge you. It's not even up to yourself to judge you. You should learn from the experiences of your life and try to grow. But judging yourself really doesn't help you move forward. It may keep you in the position that you're trying to get out of. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so we went there, and I like I said, I really felt like I needed to just try it, just go for it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You know. And if it doesn't, this will just be one of the million failures until we get that success that will shadow all of the failures and nobody will be talking about it, you know? But going there was beautiful. I got to relax. It really got me into a great headspace, you know, both physically and mentally. Same thing for my wife. And the second we got back from there, we got pregnant with our first kid. You know what I'm saying? So going to Puerto Rico, once again, was another part of everything. And when we were there, I was super frustrated because nothing was working. You know what I'm saying? The internet is horrible, like in terms of trying to create a business. You know what I'm saying? If you don't have a lot of money backing you to reach certain people in certain places, I didn't have a great understanding of marketing at the time. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to. My vision was more grandiose than my actual plan to fulfill the vision was. You know what I'm saying? But once again, I'm not mad about that at all because it was like I said, being there, it really made us whole. To the point to where it was super easy when we got back to have our first child. You know what I mean? Since then, when I came back, I started working at like Trader Joe's or something. I was looking for any job, you know what I'm saying? Even working there was a great, humbling experience. You know what I mean? I guess it wasn't as socially successful as what I was doing prior to that. You know what I mean? Talking to people about, oh, what are you doing now? Oh, I stack oranges. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not like something you bragging about to somebody, but being there and interacting with people in the public and also seeing how people treat each other was another humbling and growing experience. And I met a lot of dope individuals from there. And the crazy part is majority of the people I work with have like their college degrees and like all kinds of random stuff. So you would assume that like you're in a place with a whole bunch of quote unquote slackers or people who, haven't got it together, but that wasn't the case at all. You know what I mean? We were all there for whatever reason, but it wasn't a negative thing. You know what I'm saying? And then from there, like I said, having that moment of peace and growth and wholeness in Puerto Rico helped us when we came back home. We got pregnant with our first son, and then that kind of changed everything because I was just like, all right, so now I'm in. It was kind of a panic mode, but see, this is one thing that I've learned to let go. Just because you can't see where it's going doesn't mean it's not going anywhere. You know what I mean? And I was wondering, like, damn, because I was working weekends at Trader Joe's. You had 2 days off, but it wasn't. My 2 days off was like Tuesday and Wednesday. I was working like a crazy schedule. My wife at the time, she was working like at some nursing, which is like pharmaceutical corporation, doing like some call center nursing stuff. So our schedule, we weren't even seeing each other a lot. I was doing like early morning, so I'm waking up at like 3:45 in the morning. You know what I'm saying? I'm out of the house several hours before she even wakes up. Like, we really didn't connect. And after we had the kid, I was just like, damn, I need time. I need like weekends. You know what I'm saying? Like, where am I going to get that from? And then lo and behold, my brother came through with a position at the Essex County Sheriff's Department. You know what I mean? And that helped me out because it gave me a salary, benefits, and I had weekends off. You know what I'm saying? And the schedule was better. It was more consistent. You know what I mean? So it was just like, I moved to there. And when I was there, I'm not even going to lie, yo, I got into a slight depressive rut at that moment because once again, I couldn't see how things were moving forward. You know what I'm saying? And like, I had a conversation with my dad and I was just like, yo, I really don't want to be a cop. Nothing against officers. Like, yo, we need police. I have no problem with police. All my interactions with cops haven't been crazy. I have a lot of family that's officers. I don't want to label a whole profession off of a few and how they conduct themselves. But so like I was kind of conflicted because I'm like, yo, I really don't want to be an officer. But like, looking at the salary and everything, my dad was like, listen, follow yourself. He was like, you're there for a reason. And it was crazy as I actually linked up with somebody there who we went to Columbia with. He was a little younger, you know what I'm saying? But he did music. So I started doing music and I learned how to do EDM music and produce EDM beats. And it was like another like that fire got rekindled, you know what I'm saying? And I felt like it felt when we was making music back in the day. And I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Me and him wound up falling off, right? So I remember I was sitting, one thing that happened to me from being working at the sheriff's department, I met up with this guy, this dude named Bilal, and you can find him on Instagram at Urban Spiritualist. Like, I don't big people up, but like very, very good dude, And I guess he kind of helped me to trust my intuition, you know what I mean? And to trust myself in the process of a lot of things. And so one day I was home and I was meditating and I was just like, you know what? Am I supposed to be doing this? Like pursuing music or entertainment industry in any way, media, whatever. And I put it out to the universe. I was like, I need an answer. Am I supposed to go like regular 9 to 5 or should I continue to pursue my own goals? You know what I'm saying? Down this path that I've been going. And I was like, I want the answer before the day is over. That's what I put out into the universe. And that night, a friend of ours, Wayne, hit me up. Like, yo, come over to my spot. We having a meeting. You know what I'm saying? I get there. I meet my now business partner. It was Wayne and 2 other people there. And we all sat down and we started working on a movement that we were trying to do. You know what I'm saying? I had come up with the title, the acronym DILF. You know what I'm saying? And it was Dad's You'd Like to Fornicate. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like Dad's I'd like to. I'm like, listen, man, I'm not trying to have sex with no dads out here, but other people might, you know what I mean? So I was just like, let me switch up how the title is. So DILF Life became like the movement that we started pushing. We did videos, we did all type of stuff. But then, like I said, the momentum fell through. But what I realized was that I was supposed to meet the business partner that I have now. that was the point of all of that. You know what I'm saying? Me and him linked, and our relationship became cemented through our business dealings. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that we were always consistent with each other. Everything we said we were going to do, we did. And since we saw that in each other, that we just like we gravitated towards each other. You know what I'm saying? It brought us together. And then we worked on recently. I worked on a show called The Writer's Block on YouTube. We filmed like 20 some odd plus episodes with them. Everything was cool, you know what I'm saying? No hate or love lost to those dudes. It's just the initial direction that we were all supposed to go in got changed, you know what I mean? And it just wasn't something that me and Corey had signed up for. And so we had to basically step back from that, you know what I mean? One thing that, you know, that happened from this, I'm always growing and challenging. When we formed the DILF Life movement that we were doing, I was just coming in as production, you know what I'm saying? I was just like, yo, I just want to make beats or whatever. But then we needed like visuals. So what did I do? I jumped behind the camera. You know what I mean? I had done camera work before years prior, but it was not something that I was comfortable with or something that I had known or had been doing. But I jumped behind it, got it going. Then me and him, like I said, 2 seconds later, I'm shooting episodes for this web series that was going on, you know what I mean? And it's great. And people are like, yo, man, who shot that? It looks phenomenal. We're doing the editing. Oh man, the editing is great, you know. Once again, that confidence that I found in myself from the second renaissance from Full Sail, I should say, and the second renaissance of me working in the school district, that confidence of like this, I know I haven't been doing this forever, but that doesn't mean that I can't jump in and see where it takes me. You know what I mean? And I actually started screenwriting. Like I never wrote a script before in my life. You know what I mean? I wound up writing a script, and actually 2 things, like for a television show and a movie. Just once again, pushing myself, challenging myself. And now our current venture, where we want to go now, you know, because like I said, I'm constantly moving. I'm the type of person, I do whatever until something sticks, you know what I mean? And along the way, I don't see anything as a failure unless I didn't learn something from it. If I don't learn, I fail. If I learn something, it's not a failure, it's an experience. Life is full of experiences that makes us better individuals as we move forward, you know. So now we just got finished writing the script, and we were about to pursue pushing the script, but then the opportunity came up in New Jersey to where marijuana became legalized. And this is something that has been a part of my life for a long time, in you know, recreational or behind the scene ways. But yeah, I'm like, yo, this is a field that I would really like to get into, not just because of the profits, but because of, you know, the medicinal benefits behind it. I would love to be able to help people in our culture with transitioning into using it. So now we're pursuing like the, you know, trying to open up a dispensary. But yeah, that's it. That's, you know, my timeline hasn't been something crazy, something, you know, over the top. I can't say I'm a super successful human being other than the fact that I'm a father with 2 children and a wife. You know what I'm saying? I'm surrounded by love. And, you know, I constantly push myself to grow and become better. You know, that's the measure of success that I've always held myself to up until this point. But now I'm starting to you know, change my mentality a little bit to get that financial success, because I'm trying to, you know, get rid of these bills and stuff. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's it. Like literally, that growth has literally brought me to where I am, and I feel better for it.
You're listening to the Third Lap Podcast with Mal Davis.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to take something away from my story or my experiences, is, yo, never stop. You know what I mean? It's not over until you're dead. It's not over until you give up. Don't give up. Keep pushing forward. You know, if you look for inspiration from anyone, you should always take from those who have achieved things, their tenacity and their determination to not stop in their pursuit of whatever it is they're doing. Because everyone who has achieved anything in life has a grocery list of failures behind them before they reach that plateau of success. And like I said, I feel like I feel like I get closer to it day by day, truthfully. You know what I mean? But along the way, you know, I've had so many successes in terms of growth and knowledge and wisdom that I've acquired up until this point that I'm just happy for the ride, man. You know, like I said, I'm a human growing. That's it. Like, you know, and as long as we all continue to be that, I think that no matter what we do in society, you could be a janitor. It doesn't matter. If your mentality is that you want to continue to grow as a human being and push yourself, you know, the limits of your understanding, your mentality, you know, keep going. And if we all did that, that would make society better as a whole. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's it. That's my story, man.
That's what's up, Brian. You hit on a couple things here. So you talked about like what your story is as far as your career. You also talked about like what pushes you and motivates you, and then also the motivational thoughts for the people. So what you want people to walk away with. So where I mean, we've really kind of gotten to the end here. As far as we talked before we started recording about reading, and you said you had a bunch of things. So as folks know, the Third Lab podcast has a reading list that's associated with it. And so what are some of the books that you've read that have been really influential for you?
I'm about to tell you right now, yo. I'm about to run this down. Hold on, let me get through all of these. I got into comic books again for some reason, so I got mad graphic novels on my phone that I read. All right, so one, this is a dope book that I feel like everybody should to check into. It's called Plague of Corruption. It's from Dr. Judy Mikovits and Kent. I'm gonna mess up his last name. Ken Lively, from what I see, is small. I'm sorry, but Plague of Corruption, dope book. I think everyone should read it. Uncle Tom's Cabin. I'm currently reading that right now. Phenomenal book. Let's see what else. Hold on. Behold the Pale Horse. I just got into that. I'm reading like 4 books at once. It's insane. You know what I'm saying? My life is crazy, yo. This phenomenal sociologist that I love. Come in. It's okay. Called Derek Jensen. He has a book called Endgame, phenomenal. A book called Monsters, phenomenal. There's a book called Stolen Legacy that I'm about halfway through. It's the Egyptian Origins of Western Philosophy, phenomenal book. The Birth of a White Nation by Jacqueline Badalora, phenomenal book. People should check that out. Barracoon by Zora Neale Hurston. It's about the last slave ship that came to America and the person who was on it. He tells his story and everything. Phenomenal. A book from Jack D. Forbes, The American Discovery of Europe. Phenomenal book. Another book from Jack D. Forbes, Columbus and Other Cannibals. Phenomenal book. Another book from Derek Jensen, Dreams. Those are just a couple. If people get a chance to check those out, crazy perspectives on all. Oh yeah, and I started another book too from this guy Thomas Sowell, is Reality Optional and Other Essays. I'm starting to read that too. So yeah, I dive in, man. I read like 4 books at once. I pop back and forth. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm weird like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, if people get a chance, check those books out. There's several other I know I'm forgetting off the top of my head right now. People should check out the biography of Malcolm X by Manning Marable. Phenomenal book, phenomenal. I read that a couple years ago. I'm trying to think what else is it? I think that's it right now. I'm sorry, that's on the top of my head. That's all I could think of. But if you check out those lists of books, I think people, that's a great starting point, and it'll take you down a rabbit hole of all type of other dope books too.
Yeah, I read Stolen Legacies, like 6 years ago when I was teaching in the South Bronx. And it was just, it's enlightening how much was pilfered and plagiarized by Western society from the Egyptians, man. And that's a deep hole, because then that got me heavily into like the Egyptians' mystery systems.
I was about to say that
Egyptology. It was like that led me down that whole pathway, which was awesome. And I actually got that book from my mom because she was an anthropology major at City College, and she has like the craziest library of books. I've taken so many of those from her, and I appreciate it because that really got me on a great trajectory. And so yeah, Stolen Legacies for sure. But the rest of those all sound great as well. And so where can people find you or your work, whether that's social media or any websites you want to promote?
Well, right now, I literally took like the illest dip off from social media. If you want to follow me, my Instagram is still active. It's Daddy Penn 85, and literally that's just my straight family page with me and my kids and stuff. But from time to time, I'll put links to other things on there. right now, since me and my business partner have been doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff, we haven't been active on social media because we were trying to get ourselves together before we came back out. But very soon, once I get this business plan done for the dispensary that we're trying to open, I will be active again on Daddy Penn 85 on Instagram, because we're going to start the whole funding process. So that's when you'll see me again. But outside of that, I've taken a hiatus, man. I can't do social media no more. You know what I'm saying? I think that time period is come and gone, and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with anyone for being on it. I'm just saying, for me personally, it became more of a distraction than anything. And I found that it was making me extremely divisive, and I'm not a divisive person. I don't want to feel like one is right and one is wrong, you know what I mean? Because I don't feel like that's how we move forward as a society. But I felt like it was creating that mentality in my mind, especially nowadays with a lot of the stuff that's going on in the media in the world. And I didn't want to, I don't like feeling like that. So that's the reason why I stepped back. But like I said, pretty soon, within at least a month and a half, I'll be back on heavy, specifically to promote and try to raise these funds so we can get this dispensary up and running. But yeah, Daddy Penn 85 on Instagram. I'm Charles Penn on Facebook, but I haven't been on Facebook in so long that you wouldn't even be able to find me on there. You know what I'm saying? Due to inactivity. Like, I've had people literally search Charles Penn and be like, I don't see you. I'm like, yo, because they put me in the shell somewhere, you know what I'm saying, collecting dust on there. But yeah, so that's it. So but yeah, that's my social media life.
Yeah, I can't knock it. If it wasn't for this podcast, I wouldn't be on social media like that either. It's just not really something that I've ever cared about. So learning it for this has been great, because it's definitely for social media marketing. Like, that's a big component of marketing nowadays that has changed. So yeah, you need it, but I feel you, man. As far as like personal social media, I really don't be on it like that. It's so many. I learned a long time ago, you got to live life in reality. Like, you got to really live it, because people get caught up trying to be social media influencers and stars and stuff. And when you meet them in real life, they mad corny, yo. I'm like, nah, man, if you gonna when you meet me in real life, like, nah, Mal, he a real one. He really with it. But like, I'm not trying to create some social media personality that, like, you run into me like, nah, this dude a cornball, bro. I'm not. What's the point, man?
It's hard to live up to a falsehood. You know what I'm saying? When you put on a character, some days you're gonna forget to play the character, and then people gonna be looking at you weird. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I'm good on that. You know what I mean?
But yeah, bro. So we at the end. Want to again thank you for coming on, CP. This was a great opportunity to learn more about your pathway, and even though I was a part of your life for most of these instances, hearing about how these different portions of your life helped you evolve. And then you was talking about your dad's crib out in Somerville, man. So I never forget the day we came back to your crib while late and the lights was off, and I walked smack into the door, Brian. You told me the next day your dad was like, yo, don't have him coming back over here no more, man, waking me all up. I never forget that, man. I was like, oh, man, it's like 4 a.m. I definitely just walked face first into this man's closed bedroom door, yo.
That's hilarious, yo.
It's the small things, man. But dude, this was great, yo. Shouts out to your family.
Definitely, same to yours too, man.
Appreciate you. Stay safe out here in this pandemic, and we're gonna definitely link, bro. Any last words that you want to share before we sign out?
I just want everybody to do one thing, if you can. I'm not an intelligent person, or I should say I'm not the most intelligent person. I'm not the wisest person on the planet. But I will say this, just based off of my experience, especially during times like this. Sometimes you need to turn off what's being told to you and go out and experience what's really there. You know what I mean? And I think that that's one thing that we all should take away from this. Stop accepting the reality that's given to you and go experience the reality that is really there, the one that really exists. That's it. Those are my words of, my last wisdom, you know what I'm saying, to impart with the people.
Oh yeah, that's a fact, man. Go live life for real. Especially once we get on the other side of this pandemic, which we will, we will survive it. We will see another day. Learn from it though, right? Learn how to operate from this. if you have been deferring your dreams this whole time, well, you're in a pandemic that you're not guaranteed to make it through. Live your dreams right now, man. And when this is over, keep living those dreams, because again, as Charles said in the beginning, like we fall victim to trying to live our lives for other people's congratulations and appreciation. But in the end of the day, you most likely miserable. And so, live your life, live for you, live righteously though. Like, don't be out here just creating dissent and
don't be
turmoil.
wild.
Live in a way that you create instances for other people to grow and become better. And like Charles said too in the very beginning, like you have to take care of self. You have to educate yourself. You have to physically, spiritually, mentally uplift yourself and take care of yourself, because if you don't, nobody will, right? Like, my dad always told me, be your own best cheerleader, because in the end of the day, and we've both experienced this, no one knows your dream or believes in your dream until they can actually see it, right? Like, very rarely do people buy in before it's visible or tangible. Most times it has to be tangible for people to tap in. And so by the time it's tangible, you done already put thousands of hours of work into this thing. And so, like my wife and I fully believe, like, you win or you learn. There's no such thing as losing, right? And so you can't lose if you learn from it. Mistakes are gonna happen. We had a failed business. I've had another one that was the website. This now is my third one. I'm gonna keep going. It's imperative that no matter what, you put your best foot forward. And so CP, again, man, it was great reconnecting with you. Shouts out to your family. Shouts out to everybody on your side. As always, people, thank you for listening. Thank you for logging in. Appreciate you. Subscribe, share it. Give feedback on the podcast, on social media, or through any of the listening devices that you use. And as always, each one teach one. We'll all learn together. Thank you for tuning into another episode of the Third Lap Podcast. This is your host, Mal Davis. Please visit thethirdlappodcast.com for more information about the podcast, about our guests, and also to see our reading list. You can find us at The Third Lap Podcast on LinkedIn and Facebook, at Third Lap on Twitter, and at third_lap_podcast on Instagram. If you know anyone that would be great to be featured on this show, please reach out to our host, Mal Davis. He's always looking for interesting people to learn more about them and to talk about their pathway. Thank you so much again. Have a good one.
You're listening to the Third Lap Podcast with Mal Davis.
Yeah.
You're listening